the things we were concerned about was we were making a film about Israel, predominantly for a film, for an audience that was not Israeli. Now, I'm assuming that at some point this will leak into Israel, but we were mostly making this for an international audience.
Mm-hmm.
It's a complicated story, and the names are unfamiliar and so forth and so on, but we have a motherload. I mean, I was leaked something like, I don't know, 600 hours of videotapes, and some of them are extremely revealing. Sheldon Adelson, very interesting. And also there's another guy who Arnon Milchan brought in as part of his relationship with Bibi, who's an Australian billionaire named James Packer. And interestingly enough, there's really lovely detail about how Sarah Netanyahu would literally siphon the water from Packer's pool into her pool, so she wouldn't have to spend the money herself to fill up her own pool.
What?
And also that Arnon Milchan himself brought in Packer because while he is a very wealthy man, wanted somebody to share the pain of the $100 cigars. So he wanted somebody else to be in on the corruption. So there's detail like that I think is there. I wouldn't say, because these, and there's also a great deal of, there's yet a whole nother corruption case that we didn't even get into, also related to the media. So there's a lot of material, and at some point I hope we will convey it, if we can do so in a way that is safe for the source.
Thank you for doing this. It's pretty incredible, and I think the value of this is really the information that you're providing, and kind of going back to your discussion on privacy law. I listen to a lot of Israeli news sources pretty often, and some of the things that I've actually heard is that the dissemination of this type of information, not just the politics but the war, is very slow in the country. And I was wondering how much you knew about that in terms of, because the dissemination of information about everything that's going on in the war, everything's going in Gaza, and that kind of stuff is actually not as much as what we see. Maybe because of this privacy law or other different kind of the way all the news has to go through kind of screeners and things like that. But I was wondering if you had any more information in terms of that, because...
I'm sorry, in terms of what precisely?
In terms of how much information is being screened from the Israeli public.
Oh, from the Israeli public.
Oh, that's about the Israeli public, yeah.
So what is interesting is actually a lot of the content of some of these interrogation videos has been leaked in Israel and is available. But the privacy law only refers to the audiovisual material. So this has never been seen before, ever, anywhere, Israel or anywhere else, the videotape. But some of the transcripts have actually been seen. I've also found it interesting to observe that for some of the Western media, they ask us things like, how dare you say that Netanyahu would somehow have been involved in supporting Hamas? Where do you get that? I'm like, well, I read the Israeli press. I read the papers every day. That's where I got it. So you might want to check them out. So it's a tricky thing. There was a rather robust exchange of views in the Israeli press, even though Netanyahu goes to great lengths to try to cultivate it. Now, parallel to that, I'll just mention that, harken back to what we were talking about earlier about Euros. One of our producers on this film is Ravi Drucker, the TV journalist who is seen so often in the film. He had one of his shows canceled, once it was announced that this film came out, and it looked like he might be fired from the station because the owner of the station, the ownership of the station changed hands, and the new owner was very close to Netanyahu. Interestingly, as his career was hanging by a thread, everybody at the station refused to talk to the new owner or the new representative of the owner at all, in any circumstance or in any way, until Bibi had been reinstated. And indeed, he has been. So sometimes you raise a ruckus and good things happen.
Alex, so I'm gonna start.
So the challenge you have getting it distributed, that you have not found a way to distribute it. And is Milshan, who has deep roots in Hollywood, is that a problem? What can you tell us?
No, I don't think, I mean, the question was, our difficulty in getting a kind of mainstream distributor. I don't think Milchan had anything to do with it. I think the fact that it's controversial had everything to do with it. Now, one streamer was willing to take it on, but only if they, waited 2 years to show it, which we weren't going to do. And most of the others, their response was similar to the response of the Knights in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which was, run away! So that was really it. But we weren't really willing to take no for an answer, so we formed a common cause with this new platform called Jolt. And I have been something of an informal advisor in that. But it's a mechanism by which we hope to reignite that relationship between makers and viewers that is now being blocked, in effect, by some of the major outlets during this period of consolidation.
So